In the soft glow of an early autumn morning in a quiet suburban town in the USA, Emily sat on the porch of her family's old farmhouse, clutching a faded photograph of Jonathan, her beloved fiancé whose smile had once brightened every corner of her life. The cool air carried the distant whisper of falling leaves, echoing a rhythm of bittersweet memories. Emily's heart, weakened by years of silent suffering, was not just failing in body but also in spirit. Every heartbeat reminded her of loss, longing, and the deep scars left by tragedy. A knock on the door startled her from her reverie. In walked Drive. Rebecca, the compassionate cardiologist who had become both a confidant and a beacon of hope. Emily, drive. Rebecca said gently, "We have found a donor, but it's not what you expected." The words hung in the air, charged with the weight of an unthinkable twist. Emily's mind raced with fragments of her past and the ever-present ache that something vital was missing. That morning, as she listened to the doctor's careful explanation, a startling detail emerged. The life that had so unexpectedly been offered to her came from Michael, Jonathan's own brother, a man whose existence had become intertwined with both cherished memories and silent grief. The revelation cut through Emily like a shard of bittersweet truth. Jonathan had been her safe haven, and now, Michael, the one whose presence always reminded her of the past, had become her unlikely savior. In that fragile moment on the creaking wooden porch, Emily felt the stirrings of conflicting emotions, the heaviness of sorrow warring against a spark of hope. There was a raw intensity in knowing that the heart that beat in her chest was now, in part, Michael's, a heart that had loved fiercely and lost dearly. The notion was as surreal as it was profound, infusing her with questions about fate, destiny, and the mysterious ways in which compassion finds its path amid heartache. Every beat felt sacred now, imbued with the echoes of two lives lost and reclaimed in one tender, life-altering moment. As the autumn sun rose higher, casting a warm light over the dew-kissed grass, Emily's eyes welled with tears, not solely of grief, but of gratitude. Her life, once colored in muted hues of melancholy, was now being painted with the vibrant brushstrokes of kindness, sacrifice, and an enduring love that transcended even the boundaries of death. Emily's life had been a delicate dance between hope and despair long before she found herself on that weathered porch. Born and raised in a small Midwestern town, she had always possessed a tender heart, one that absorbed the beauty and pain of the world with equal measure. Her childhood memories were filled with long summer evenings spent chasing fireflies, the comforting scent of freshly baked bread wafting from her mother's kitchen, and nights wrapped in her father's steady lullabies. It was a life that, while ordinary, had been imbued with warmth and a sense of belonging. As a young woman, Emily had encountered Jonathan, a man whose passion for life was infectious. They met in college, during an autumn festival when golden leaves swirled around them like whispered promises. Jonathan, with his gentle humor and unwavering determination, had rekindled a deep, almost forgotten spark within her. Their courtship was the stuff of quiet legends in their community, secret picnics beneath sprawling oak trees, midnight drives along deserted country roads, and whispered dreams shared over cups of steaming coffee in cozy cafes. They planned a future together that shimmered with promise, a future that, tragically, was abruptly shattered. A few years into their engagement, an unforeseen accident claimed Jonathan's life, leaving Emily adrift in a sea of grief and unanswered questions. The loss plunged her into a darkness that seemed impenetrable. Each day became a battle with memories and an empty ache that no amount of time could heal. Her heart, already fragile from the emotional toll, began to betray her physically. Diagnosed with a rare condition that slowly sapped her vitality, doctors warned that her failing heart needed a transplant, if she was to stand any chance of survival. It was a cruel irony. The very heart that had once been the symbol of her love was now failing her, overwhelmed by sorrow and loss. In the months following Jonathan's death, Emily was haunted by dreams of him, a montage of fleeting moments that blurred the line between reality and the realms beyond. While friends and family tried to console her, their words, no matter how well-meaning, could not fill the void left by his absence. The medical bills mounted alongside her mounting grief, and the world she once knew crumbled into a series of muted days and sleepless nights. In her isolation, she clung desperately to the memories of happier times, yearning for a miracle that could restore not just her failing heart, but her spirit as well. Then, amid the despair, came the twist of fate. In a routine pre-transplant consultation, a call from the hospital shattered the monotony of her grief. A donor had been found, a donor whose story was heartbreakingly familiar. It was Michael, Jonathan's brother, whose own life had been touched by tragedy. Michael, always in the shadow of his brother, had become a silent guardian of Jonathan's legacy. His final gift, though wrapped in sorrow, was an act of love so profound that it defied the chaos of loss. Now, Emily was faced with an impossible choice: to accept a part of a family interwoven with her past, or to continue alone, letting her heart wither with her memories. Emily's internal landscape was a tumult of conflicting emotions. The kindness inherent in Michael's sacrifice beckoned to her, yet the wounds of her past and the fear of losing Jonathan's memory held her captive. Each day was a testament to the fragile interplay of life and death, a battle between the desire to hold on to what was and the hope for a future where healing was possible. In her darkest moments, the promise of a second chance flickered like a distant lighthouse, guiding her through the relentless storm of grief. On a chilled winter's day that seemed to hold its breath, the day of the transplant arrived. The hospital corridors were hushed with anticipation, and every whispered prayer in the waiting room was laced with hope and trepidation. Emily lay in her hospital bed, the steady beep of the monitoring machines forming a fragile rhythm against the deep silence of her own uncertain heart. It was in that fragile space between life and death that the true miracle was about to unfold, an act of kindness as profound as it was sacrificial. The operating room was a realm of controlled intensity. Dr. Rebecca's skilled hands moved with precision, guided by years of experience and the quiet determination that compassion often instills. As the surgical team prepared Emily's body to receive the new heart, there was an almost palpable sense of purpose in the air, a shared recognition that this was not merely a medical procedure but a profound gesture of love and remembrance. For Emily, each breath was charged with the memories of Jonathan, while in the background loomed the legacy of Michael, a man whose quiet courage had been eclipsed by tragedy for too long. As the procedure commenced, Emily's thoughts wandered to the day she had learned about her donor. The realization that Michael, Jonathan's brother, had been the source of this new lease on life was like an emotional jolt. In that moment, every story of sibling rivalry, every whispered secret shared between brothers was transformed into something redemptive. Michael's heart, once beating in the shadow of his more charismatic sibling, now beat anew in Emily's chest. The surgery was more than a clinical exchange. It was a passage of legacy, a final embrace from a family that had, despite its own sorrows, chosen to give so selflessly. Inside the sterile theater, the operating team worked with a blend of urgency and tenderness. Each stitch and every measured incision was an act of dedication, as if they were mending not just a frail body, but the fragile tendrils of hope that had been knotted by loss. There was a fleeting, almost imperceptible moment when Emily, drifting between consciousness and the deep anesthesia, felt as if two hearts, her own and Michael's, were whispering to each other in a language beyond words. It was a communion of souls, a silent pledge that despite all the pain and suffering, life was a gift to be treasured. Outside, in the quietude of the hospital garden, a soft snowfall began to fall, each flake a fragile testament to nature's quiet miracles. Emily's family and a few close friends gathered, their faces etched with worry yet hopeful for the promise of recovery. They recalled Michael with tender reverence, as if honoring a gentle spirit who had transcended his earthly struggles to save another. The act of kindness had reverberated far beyond the sterile walls of the hospital. It had ignited a spark in every heart that had witnessed or heard of the sacrifice. In the days that followed, as Emily fought to regain her strength, the memory of Michael became a constant, comforting presence. His gift was not only of life but of redemption, a reminder that even in the aftermath of loss, compassion had the power to restore. Emily's recovery was slow and fraught with physical pain and emotional challenges, Yet every step she took was imbued with the weight of that magnificent act of selflessness. Through her vulnerability and quiet courage, the story of a heart reborn unfolded, a story that whispered of hope amid sorrow, and of love finding its way even in the darkest corners of despair. In the weeks and months following her transplant, Emily's life began to transform in unexpected ways. The act of receiving Michael's heart set in motion a quiet revolution within her, a ripple of healing that spread through every facet of her being. Gradually, as the scar on her chest faded into a hidden memory, so too did the unyielding grip of grief. Where once her days were consumed by the ghosts of loss, new moments of joy, tenderness, and even laughter began to take root. Emily found herself drawn to moments of small kindnesses, a smile from a stranger on her morning walk, the gentle pat of a dog's head in the park, and the quiet word of encouragement from her physical therapist. Each gesture, no matter how small, became a reaffirmation of life's fragile beauty. She began to volunteer at a local support group for those coping with loss and illness, sharing her journey in the hope that her experience might offer comfort or a spark of hope to someone else. In recounting the story of how Michael's sacrifice had given her a second chance at life, Emily discovered her own inner strength and an emerging determination to honor both Jonathan and Michael through acts of empathy. Her transformation was not without its challenges. There were days when the memories of her past threatened to overwhelm the newfound light in her heart. The specter of guilt, whispering that accepting the donor heart might somehow be a betrayal of Jonathan's memory, occasionally cast a shadow. Yet, in these moments, she would recall the resolute compassion of Michael, a reminder that love, in its purest form, is never confined by the boundaries of life or death. His act of giving was not a replacement for what had been lost, but rather an extension of it, a tangible proof that love can transcend even the greatest of sorrows. Emily's friends and family soon noticed the change in her demeanor. She was more patient, more attuned to the subtle symphony of life's everyday miracles. Conversations that once revolved around the absence of what could have been now blossomed into discussions about rebuilding, about creating new memories. The community that had once rallied around her in shared mourning now celebrated her small victories, a recovered step on the hospital floor, a genuine laugh shared over coffee, or a moment of peaceful solitude in the garden. Each of these moments was an echo of Michael's final, selfless gift. Even beyond her immediate circle, Emily's journey began to inspire others. Colleagues at the local nonprofit, where she eventually found work counseling those grappling with life's unexpected twists, marveled at the resilience she embodied. In speaking openly about her transplant, she sparked conversations about the transformative power of kindness. Her story became a beacon for many who, facing their own hardships, sought solace in the truth that even after devastating loss, life holds the promise of renewal. The kindness that Michael had shown by offering his final gift had, in a quiet yet profound way, resurrected not only her heart but also her capacity to love freely and to hope boldly. Selflessness soon wove itself into the fabric of the community, a mosaic of reclaimed dreams and gentle reconciliations with the past. Emily began organizing annual remembrance events at the hospital, inviting families of transplant recipients and donor families alike to share in a celebration of life, memory, and the miracles wrought by compassion. In these gatherings, stories of quiet heroism and empathetic kindness filled the air, turning personal tragedies into collective triumphs. The very notion that one person's sacrifice could mend a broken heart resonated deeply, reminding everyone present that love was, indeed, the most potent medicine. Months turned into a year, and as autumn arrived once again, Emily stood before a small crowd in the hospital's memorial garden. Under the canopy of russet and gold leaves, she delivered a heartfelt speech, one that wove together the threads of her life's tapestry, the piercing loss of Jonathan, the unexpected gift of Michael's kindness, and her own arduous journey toward healing. With a trembling yet resolute voice, she spoke of the paradox of receiving new life through the sacrifice of another, and of the beauty that emerges when compassion triumphs over despair. In that moment, every person present could feel the sincerity of her gratitude and the enduring power of love. Emily recounted the early days of her illness, the agonizing wait in the hospital corridors, and the moment when she first felt the gentle thump of Michael's heart join her own. She described how that moment had rekindled within her an understanding that the heart is not merely an organ but a vessel for hope, memory, and transformation. Her words, raw and unguarded, resonated with those who had known loss and those who had been buoyed by the kindness of strangers. Amid the applause and soft murmurs of empathy, a figure emerged from the gathering, a young man named Daniel, once a patient on the transplant waiting list who had since recovered and found new purpose in life. Moved by Emily's journey, he approached her with tears in his eyes, whispering that her story had given him the courage to pursue forgiveness, to embrace healing, and to believe in the transformative power of altruism. In that quiet exchange, the ripple effect of one extraordinary act of kindness came full circle. Emily's journey had, in ways subtle and grand alike, mended not only her own broken heart but also touched the lives of those around her. As dusk settled over the garden, painting the sky in hues of lilac and amber, Emily found herself enveloped in the warm glow of community and love. In the silent whispers of the wind, she could hear both Jonathan's gentle reassurances and Michael's quiet legacy urging her onward. The internal battle, the guilt, the grief, the fear of forgetting, had begun to yield to a newfound strength. Life, with all its imperfections and heartbreak, was now something to be cherished rather than mourned. In the final moments of that transformative day, Emily made a quiet vow. She would honor Jonathan by continuing to live with an open heart, and she would honor Michael by spreading the same kindness that had granted her a second chance. With a serene smile and eyes that shone with unspoken determination, she stepped forward into the soft light of a future where each heartbeat was an echo of sacrificial love, each moment a testament to the power of compassionate renewal. Though the scars of loss would forever be a part of her, they no longer defined her. Instead, they had become the foundation upon which hope, kindness, and resilient love were built. In the merging of lives, loss, and the redemptive power of selfless kindness, Emily's story reminds us that true healing often comes from the most unexpected sources. Through the legacy of Michael's sacrifice, she learned that even broken hearts can be reborn into a legacy of compassion, transforming grief into a celebration of life.